Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
This is flat Darryl because it's very flat. It's on a stick. Everyone at Darryl's company, which he worked for PG&E, had one of these that knew Darryl. And they would go on vacation, and everywhere they traveled, they would do a video, and they would have Flat Darryl with them, and they would be talking to Darryl on this video and say, "Hey, Darryl, we're at Mount Everest. Here you are with us. Hi, Darryl, hope you're well." Or they would be in Hawaii and say, "Look, Darryl, you're in Hawaii now." And it was just, they would send the videos to Darryl, and I would show them to him, and it was just overwhelming, the love and coming from employees and peers and just everyone. We had to set up a special website at PG&E because his poor boss got no work done, and I had to call every day so that they could report on this computer site so people would quit bugging his boss and they could find out about Darryl. So this is Flat Darryl, and we just thought it was such a cool idea. So just kind of neat.
Like I said, I don't think there was anything that I wish we would have known prior to transplant, but I feel very fortunate to be able to help people who are going into transplant now, to be able to share our experience and help them know a little bit more than we did going in. And, you know, there's a lot of things you don't think you necessarily want to know, but knowing it and then experiencing it, it's a little bit more comforting that you knew it was going to happen or that you knew something like this could happen. So I think it's going to be really beneficial for transplant patients to have this information prior to transplant, and then everyone's experience is different. So they're going to experience things that we don't get to talk about on this video, and they're going to experience things that they have heard about on this video. And I think both things are valid, and I just, encourage everybody to be a donor and have that box checked on your driver's license application and sign up, because you never know what's going to happen, and if you can save a life, that's the best gift you can ever give.
I'd like to share the fact that I haven't made this journey alone with my wife. I'd like to share the fact that being a caregiver means that you're on probably one of the most professional teams on this planet. There are hundreds of people who you'll never meet, who you don't know their names, but they're always there. Anytime that myself as a caregiver needs answers, or that my wife needs help or assistance, they will be there as long as she lives. And to me, I think knowing that now and also knowing that then made all the difference in the world. And then experiencing the unique commitment that those caregivers gave to me to help me to do my job and to help her, it was priceless. I can't even quantify it or express how thankful and grateful I am to have that kind of support. Well, I've got a lot of stories about people who have had transplants that I've known personally and who weren't lucky enough to survive. In some cases, it was just too much for them. The things that were demanded of them, they couldn't fulfill. In some cases, they just gave up. In some cases, there were individuals who were caregivers that just didn't understand the responsibility that they have being a caregiver. And that's most important, because that person is relying upon you primarily for their emotional, their physical, all their support primarily, whether it's going to the various, periodic evaluations, checks, whether they're integrating socially, and whether they're attending support group meetings, whether they need transportation, whatever the case might be. But more than anything else, it's your commitment to that person that is so, in a way, intangible, but yet most important to that person's success after that transplantation. And I'm grateful that I can look forward to 5 years of success with my wife, and more, hopefully, a lot more.
Okay, so this is Rudy, and if you guys knew Rudy, a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. He is such a character. We all love humor, and our whole family, but this was 7 days in the hospital just this past April, and we didn't know what was going on. He had pleural effusion, and I was a little bit worried. The doctors were a little bit worried, but so I said to Rudy, I need to take a picture of you so I can send it to the girls. And this is what he does. And so when you see this, it's all good. It's all good.
There's one thing I would like to share. When we got the call, we came to the hospital and my husband was in surgery. And after surgery, I started emailing. I had a group email list that I sent out to friends and family, telling them that he got his double lungs. And I started getting texts and phone calls and emails, and it was, oh my goodness, oh my gosh. I started answering them individually, then I thought, there's no way. I keep repeating the same thing. I was cutting and pasting. I didn't know who I was sending it to. So our children said, let's set up a Caring Bridge website and just do a posting every day of his progress. So my son set it up. My daughter is an English teacher, and she would be the writer. And so every day, and she would add a little humor to it and her little, quotes and everything that her children would say. And it was really nice. It gave everyone a little update. And then they would comment. And so we would see their comments. And she would monitor his progress every day. And now, looking back, it's nice because I could see what happened every day. It was like a chronology of everything he went through. And it's like a story that we didn't have to, go back and say, gee, when did you do this? When did you come out of ICU? When did this happen? When did you get up? We have it all written. And it's really wonderful. It's just a wonderful thing to do, and it's easy, and it takes the stress off of you getting all these phone calls. And people like it. My daughter would say, gee, I'm getting emails saying, well, when's the next update? We got to write another update. And she goes, we got to give the people what they want. So that's a definite. Do something, whether it be Caring Bridge. I'm sure there's other websites out there that they could use, but it's really a big help. My husband had some esophageal problems, and so when he was released from the hospital, he had a feeding tube. And at first, we were told I would have to crush all his meds and put them in the feeding tube. And I just thought, I was freaking out. I thought, I cannot do this because you got to really crush them. And the tube is very small. And I thought, how am I going to do this? Well, luckily, they did a swallow test. They said, no, we don't have to crush the meds, but you need the feeding tube. So he came home with the feeding tube, and the home visiting nurse came and showed me how to do it. And that was pretty easy to do. So he would have that feeding tube from 6 p.m. until 8 a.m. in the morning, and I would change, add the formula. It's just a bag. It's very easy to do. It's not a problem for me. For him, he had the feeding tube, and so at 6 o'clock at night, I had a little thing pinned here. I'd unpin it, hook it up to the tube. The formula would be hanging in a bag on a pole. He'd have to go to the bathroom. He'd be wheeling the pole in. When he'd go to bed, put it next to his bed. Get up during the night, I'd have to get up and help him because he was weak and it was hard for him to push the pole. So the whole feeding tube experience was not a good one because the formula he was given was very rich in potassium. And each blood test, the first blood test, his potassium was a little high. And then we waited, that was Thursday. Monday came back for the next blood test. Potassium was going up. Why is it going up? We talked to the dietitian, talked to the nurse. Oh my goodness, you're on that? Oh, you shouldn't be on that. That's really high in potassium. We need to take you off of that. So then we got a new delivery of new formula. Tried that, and I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, this seems like the potassium is equally high on this formula. So gave it to him, and I called the company that had delivered it and expressed my concern, talked to the pharmacist, and she said, well, go ahead, use it over the weekend, we'll see on Monday. So went back in. It was still high, getting dangerously high. So they took him off that, put him on some others, and then it did go down. But so that was a bad experience. And then the potassium, I had to watch what I was giving him food-wise. I couldn't give him spinach, tomatoes, bananas, all of that. The potassium did level out. It did become normal, but the feeding tube experience was not good. And then his throat became very raspy with the tube going down his throat. Even now, it's still hoarse. It's getting better. So they stopped the feeding, and he was losing weight, so they wanted to keep him on the feeding tube. So that was a little scary. But looking back, I'm glad he's not in the feeding tube anymore. But it was the formula. So I guess my advice is really check the ingredients. If the potassium is going up, look at the cans and talk to the company that delivers them. Talk to the nurse, your advice nurse, and get it straightened out.